what does it mean to be accountable for excellence? You're talking about music and the experience. So, like, what does it mean to really say, we're going to have excellence here? We want to be held accountable for that. I think every moment is a engagement moment. Every point of time could be a turning point. Could be a positive one, could be a negative one. If we all understand that we want to live and preach and live in accountability, I think it could be excellent.
So I think that it's really important to be reflecting on the ways in which our policies and our practices reflect what, and our language, reflect the true stance that we're coming from. And I really appreciated Rabbi Orlow's speaking courageously about how there may be different approaches, but the radical, inclusive, I'm coming from a stance of reverence is translated in language and policy and practice. And so I think it's important to be mindful that there are strategies, and we are looking at some evidence-based ways to ensure inclusive practice. But at the core, it's about, can we recognize the sacredness that flows through us all, and can we find ways of celebrating that sacredness in ways that helps us to not be afraid if somebody of a different faith is praying, that we can say amen to what they're saying and not feel diminished by that prayer. And being able to recognize that sanctity that is within all of us, that's how we show reverence. There's something really exciting about this time when we are expanding our notion of how God can be expressed. And I think that being open to recognizing the sacredness in each other instead of only pushing our own agendas is an important next step.
I just want to underscore something, though, that Amichai said earlier, which I think is vitally important and which ties into what Avi said as well about accountability for excellence. I think alongside all of the ways in which we present ourselves and hopefully sincerely and effectively as being radically open, radically inclusive, et cetera, we also do have a responsibility to really take the Jewish message seriously. I think Amichai is right that very often we've been victims of a kind of Judaism light approach over the decades that has left many people simply unable to say why does it matter, in fact, to be Jewish. So whatever we do, we also ought to make sure that we're being very serious and very creative about the ways in which we present that Jewish wisdom. Because at the end of the day, as important as it is for us to acknowledge the contributions that other wisdoms can make, we're also responsible for making sure that Jewish wisdom makes its contribution. And you can't do that unless we're presenting it in ways that are in fact, serious, thoughtful, creative.
So I want to get us to audience questions. Because I know we've been talking a lot already. It's been a long day. So I want to actually do a seventh inning stretch, invite everybody to just stand up and reach to the sky for a second. And in that time, start thinking about what your questions are.
Yes.
Stand up.
Good idea.
Stretch. And we have
What was it that we did at the Qigong. I've done that since then.
I just wanted to say, as we're passing the mics around, that Rabbi Orlow talked about mitzvah and that the commandment system is judgy. But at the core of the mitzvah comes from the Aramaic tzavata, which means to bundle, the power of the bundling together and recognizing the sacredness in each one. And being able to not feel like we are diminished by recognizing the sacredness in others, but rather that being the call to help us go back into our own tradition, I think actually strengthens us. And I just wanted to say that.
So questions, raise your hand and someone will bring you a mic. So in the back, and then we'll get over here. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Rutger. I'm the co-chair of the Interfaith Families Committee at Temple Shir Tikva in Wayland, Massachusetts. I'm not Jewish. Mary Beth, kind of a clue. I want a recipe book for our temple for how to be more inclusive and welcoming. There doesn't seem to be one. Does anybody else want one of those? And does anybody have one?
We've thought about it. That's as far as we've gotten, because I'd love to capture what's happened over the last 3 years. And some of the, if you want engagement, give jobs to people. And that's one of the things that's been successful, I think, about the program is many people have come through the doors, and one of them is the one that created Sacred Sounds. And she's Missionary Baptist and has no intention of converting, and she's fully a part of the congregation and a leader. And I have a couple of people that are really interested in this, and I probably ought to give them the job and say, help me categorize it and create a toolbox that can go out there. And that's probably the way to go. And that I'm really big into. I feel like it's, I don't know if it's from my churchy background or something, but I feel like all of these people, they have so many gifts to bring and give jobs, and they have so far helped create all the other programs that we have in addition to the monthly sessions. They came out of the monthly sessions, so that's, I probably ought to really get on that. Me too.
Right, and also at the Interfaith Family website, we have a ton of resources. We have booklets about all of the holidays, about life cycles that are written in really inclusive and welcoming language for people of varying Jewish backgrounds and no Jewish background. We have the stories of people from interfaith families talking about what they find meaningful and how they've incorporated Judaism into their lives. We have actual recipes and food blogs and program ideas and a whole lot of other things, as well as our on-the-ground resources like Michael, like Jillian in the Boston area, who can be resources to talk to congregations about how to do this.
We also have really clear guidelines and helpful excerpts from different congregations around what they've done. Institutions, not just synagogues. We have educational programs that have, where you can see what mission statements look like across different denominations and different communities, and side by side figure out what might be right for a particular community and a process to go through. So if you need help finding those more specifically, you can ask us. We're on the website.
And I wanted to say, in addition to the amazing resources interfaithfamily.com has, which is incredible, and the data-driven resources that we are in the process of creating, and that we need all of your help and your voices by filling out surveys to help us have data as to what is actually going to make someone feel welcomed and included. Rabbi Devin Lerner wrote the most amazing book on the planet. Even when I've co-officiated with priests, they take the book and they start using it with their own couples. It's called Celebrating Interfaith Families, so Celebrating Interfaith Marriages, and it has, it really is a recipe book. It has every single translation, different rituals that you can do so that you can create your own worship service with a degree of tradition and other traditions that you feel comfortable with, and it's an amazing resource.
So at the lunchtime session, Joanna Ware, which was on intersectionality and interfaith stuff, Joanna Ware said that in order to create truly, to do the work we're trying to do, we need to think about inclusion in more radical ways. and that we have to be, that institutions have to be open to the possibility and open to the reality that having folks with different identities in them are going to fundamentally change those institutions and cause those institutions to question some of the guiding assumptions. So, Avi, this gets at what you were saying about kind of transparency and vulnerability. So I'm wondering if you guys could talk from your experiences about ways in which your institutions that have done such wonderful work around inclusion have experienced that, the transformative power of the true inclusion of folks who aren't Jewish in those institutions.
I just wanted to say before, as I take the microphone back, that in addition to looking at that, the goal, while right now it is really radical to be including people and welcoming them, like my goal personally is that it's never radical. Like, we welcome all human beings, children of the same creator, and that it shouldn't be radical to be welcoming to some, I mean, the Torah already told us about Ger Toshav, how to be welcoming. 2,000 years later, we're still trying to figure that out.
So last year, actually the same person that created Sacred Sounds, this person who I mentioned, who's missionary Baptist and whose sort of musical gospel background is a huge part of her spiritual life, decided that she wanted to learn how to lane from the Torah and took the class, the adult, turned out to be an adult bat mitzvah class, I guess. It was all women. And she went through the class and then laned in May, and I'm just realizing you know her. And I, to this day, I'm not exactly sure what changed or what happened. But I sat there watching her, and it never occurred to me that I could do that. I could do that. I mean, in my synagogue, I can do that. And then it's kind of like my experience on Monday night. Like, I can do that. What does that mean, that I could go at the center of the center of the center, I think, the heart of the service, I could lane. That was one thing for me. And I think we all are still wondering what happened. The other piece is she brought what was clearly her missionary Baptist voice and gospel something, because she laned, and then she did the thing that a few people can do, and I think you kind of introduced to American Judaism, simultaneously translated, did a line in Hebrew, and then it did a line in English with a little bit of a translation, kind of a little interpretive translation. And I mean, I can't, the word slave was in the text several times. She's African American. She used the word slave in English. She went back and forth. And it ended with something like, I think it was, I, the Lord, I am Adonai, your God. And she sang it in English after she had done it. And there was this woman who, I just, like, her singing that in English changed something. And I don't know that I can tell you exactly what it was, but it opened up everything.
This past Tisha B'Av, for